The King's Avatar, Chapter 1206 The Thieving Chi Master, audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1206, The Thieving Chi Master. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Chi Blade. One could easily imagine how blurry a cluster of chi without light effects could be when it's streaked across the air. One needs to observe the character's movements to predict and dodge this skill, otherwise, it would be difficult to get a grasp of the distance. However, He-Ming failed to notice Boundless Sea's chi blade movement, so the cluster of chi arrived before Rullo's face. It's too late to dodge. Rullo was struck by this silent chi blade and stumbled. Most of the crowd wasn't observant enough to discover the chi blade and thought Rullo's shiver was some kind of starting action to cast a spell. Boundless Sea, still rolling on the ground, leapt up into the air almost around the same time as the attack hit. By the time he pushed both of his palms forward, a portion of the gathered chi had already shot out. Sky-piercing strike. The powerful chi attack billowed the dust on the ground and blasted right into Rullo's head. It wasn't as if He-Ming didn't react. He had tried to dodge it, but he was too late. He thought the distance between him and Boundless Sea had been pretty safe, and he felt confident in handling any Chi Master attacks with ease. However, he soon realized his mistake when the Chi blade was right in front of his face. Even a powerful skill like the sky-piercing strike was covering another attack. What sort of fighting style was this? Was it related to the movement style he used as a thief? He-Ming was an experienced pro player. Even though he didn't have a complete understanding of what Fang Rui was doing, he was able to find the key idea. All of this rooted from the movement style of a thief. This particular movement method not only allowed the thief to plant their traps quicker, but also to conceal them better. Otherwise, any idiot would be able to figure out that a thief was planting a trap when they suddenly bobbed down from running to dig up a hole. What use was a trap if its location was known? Fang Rui's Boundless Sea was using this exact same movement method. Even though he had no traps to plant, he achieved the effect that thieves wanted. His attack was like a trap. It would stay hidden until it suddenly popped up. This was Fang Rui's strength. The former number one thief, Fang Rui, had impeccable control over this sort of rhythm. He was now applying this to the Chi Master. Despite having only used two skills, he felt that they were effortless. Stupid. Why didn't I think of this earlier? Among all the long-range attacks, were there any attacks that were as easy to conceal as the Chi Master's Chi attacks? They had no sound and the visual effects weren't flashy. This was just like a moving trap. The Chi Master was truly dirty. Such secretive methods were too satisfying. After being enlightened and changing his perspective, Fang Rui interpreted the honorable and righteous Chi Master class in this dirty way. No Chi Master through the course of glory had interpreted their class in such a way. After the sky-piercing strike, Boundless Sea followed it up with a leap backwards. However, this leap was towards Rullo's direction. What is he doing? Rullo nearly flipped over from the blast of sky-piercing strike. After he finally straightened up again with difficulty, He-Ming saw Boundless Sea jump backwards towards him. Is that his back? Whenever Boundless Sea landed, he squatted, and it seemed like Boundless Sea's hand was hitting the ground. Shit. His camera shook. Although He-Ming didn't do anything, Rullo was tossed into the air. Seismic throw. Fang Rui had hit it with his back. Why was he so dirty? The target within seismic throw's range wouldn't simply bounce around like one would in a trampoline. Chi was involved in this quake, so all the targets within range would be overturned. When Rullo fell, He-Ming immediately performed a quick recover. After landing on the ground, Boundless Sea rolled. As he turned around and got up, he pushed both of his hands out. The chi drill rushed towards Rollo, who was still getting up. I can only teleport. He Ming's mind was clear and knew that only this skill could help him avoid this attack. He immediately cast it, but he was still too slow. The spiraling chi drilled through Rollo, whose body spun with it. With a boom, he was pinned to the wall behind him. Fang Rui finally took revenge for the firebird that had blasted him against the wall. This guy. He Ming was getting a little nervous. Fang Rui's fighting style suddenly changed from the style that he had observed for the previous 8 rounds. It was rather common to take the advantage to attack while transitioning between rolls and jumps. However, no one was as thorough as Fang Rui when it came to using all of these postures just to hide his attacks. When he finally noticed the chi blade, it was already in front of him. When he noticed the sky-piercing strike, a portion of the chi had already come out. When Fang Rui launched seismic throw, Fang Rui's back was facing him to conceal his attack. As for chi drill, the concealing jumps for the seismic throw also became a method to close up the distance for this skill. Furthermore, he could complete the inputs for the skill while rolling, so he could launch it when he got up. Even if the elementalist had teleport, he couldn't use it because he couldn't make his move in time. How were these attacks of a chi master? These were literally traps a thief would set down one after another for the opponent. The only difference was that the traps weren't waiting for the opponent to trigger it because the current traps were more proactive. Boundless Sea was moving around once again. Those rolls and jumps of a thief made him seem like a hound as he leapt towards Rollo. Ice walls. He Ming immediately controlled Rollo, who just fell from the wall, to launch this skill among the remaining skills he had left with the ice element. He need this to block the opponent because he need time to think. He Ming had never seen this chi master's fighting style before, so he couldn't interpret and counter it immediately. He need more time to observe and analyze Fang Rui's attacking methods. The ice walls cut off Boundless Sea, who couldn't attack Rollo directly. Take a detour. Then this would only turn into a childish game where 2 people surrounded a table and ran in circles. Last time, the person who was in panic was him, but this time, it was the opponent, right? Don't panic, I still have the advantage. He Ming looked at both of the characters' health and recovered his confidence. In terms of health, he still had the advantage. But what should I do next? Boundless Sea was nearly done smashing his ice walls into pieces, but He Ming didn't have his character do anything. You can't run. Fang Rui sent a smirking emoji. The ice wall shattered at this instant, but Rollo also happened to have disappeared. I predicted this much. Boundless Sea continued to jump backwards. His back became the defense to concentrate his chi once again. However, without waiting for him to turn around, a bolt of lightning shot through his back. Boundless Sea, who was still jumping backwards, froze in midair and fell. The audiences were stupefied. Frankly speaking, they didn't really understand what was going on this fight. That was because normal players who watched from the bird's eye view without enough skills weren't able to experience what sort of effect Fang Rui's changed style had made. For them, He Ming should be able to dodge all of these attacks, but he was still hit. This was like vanishing step, dead angle strategy, or false combos. Only players who were placed in the situation would know the difficulties that they were facing. He Ming was like this right now. However, this was soon followed by raising the ice walls, Boundless Sea charging AEAD, and Rollo moving with teleport. Boundless Sea then held up his back and sent himself towards Rollo's direction without bothering to look back. WashOurWorldAudio.com. Was he looking for death? Everyone thought in such manner. Boundless Sea was indeed struck down by Rollo's spells. Sigh, it seems that I've committed a lowly mistake. Fang Rui turned around. He was so deeply absorbed in figuring out ways he could secretively launch his attacks that he forgot that since he was sneaking around, he needed to ensure that he wasn't attacked by the opponent. His backward jumps this time was too careless and predictable. The audience thought Fang Rui was seeking death, but at that instant, He Ming was very nervous. Although he had Rollo immediately launch a piercing lightning, he truly feared that Boundless Sea had been hiding another skill, so before piercing lightning was released that skill would have struck him first. However, that didn't happen. The piercing lightning shot Boundless Sea down, and He Ming's heart was at peace. He started to make use of this opportunity at once. Spells were set up on a grand scale, and Boundless Sea was stuck in it once again. Die. As he watched Boundless Sea's decreasing health, He Ming felt some sort of urge he never had before. It was as if he would lose if he failed to finish off his opponent in this wave of attacks. Even if his character's health was still that much AEAD, but the thick sense of danger still enveloped around him tightly. Glory. The two large letters finally popped up onto the screen. He Ming felt as if he was released from great burden. No matter what happened, he still managed to take this round with a decent outcome. Rollo still had over half of his health. Fang Rui, who lost, left the stage, but he wasn't dispirited. Although he lost, he saw a miraculous future AEAD. If this weren't a formal match, he would definitely continue to shamelessly squat at the computer for another round with the opponent. He wanted to quickly confirm whether this future was possible. After seeing Fang Rui's face flushed with pride, his teammates saved their thoughts of comforting him. "It seems that you've discovered something?" Yizhu asked. The others weren't surprised at Fang Rui's attitude despite his loss, since they had listened to Yizhu's interpretation of Fang Rui's sudden adjustment in middle of the match. "Yup. Do you think it has any future?" Fang Rui humbly consulted him. The person before him was the master of all classes. He was proficient in both the Chi Master and Thief, so he should be able to give out pertinent suggestions. "Seems pretty good. You just have to avoid those sort of disgusting mistakes," Yizhu said. That was only an accident. Fang Rui took that matter as an exception. At the time, he was so deeply enthralled by his new discovery that he allowed such a careless mistake to occur. Such mistakes wouldn't occur again, so after receiving Yizhu's approval, Fang Rui became even more excited. "I really want to investigate it now. Who's the next one? Quickly finish the match. I'm in a hurry," Fang Rui yelled. Mo Fan stood up, but didn't show any reaction towards Fang Rui's shouts. He only walked quietly towards the stage. "Walk faster," Fang Rui yelled at his back. Mo Fan's figure distinctly froze, but then, in a very awkward manner, he actually started to walk faster. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1207. Charging Ninja. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1207. Charging Ninja. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. He Ming, having defeated Fang Rui, let out a breath of relief. It wasn't just a relief for this matchup, but the overall situation of the group arena. Yizhu, Sumucheng, Fang Rui, the three all-star level players had all come up already. That meant that the rest of the group arena only consisted of the rookies they had picked up. He Ming wasn't underestimating these rookies, but he definitely doubted that they would be harder to deal with than those three all-stars. He had sent off Fang Rui with quite the lead. With only two rookies left for Happy, Miracle was already on their way to victory, right? Just as he was basking in his triumph, the opponent's character had appeared on screen. Deception. That ninja that got a red card. This was the deepest impression Mo Fan had left on people after 8 rounds. Apart from that, he hadn't won a single match, so, naturally, people wouldn't pay that much attention to him. As for He-Ming, he had met Deception quite long ago. In the online game, when they were fighting Yishu, Deception had been one of Yishu's helpers. Yes, helper, that's what He-Ming thought. He didn't know all the specifics of what had happened between Deception and Happy. He remembered this guy. He-Ming's impression of Deception stopped there though. Apart from that, he knew that getting a red card meant he didn't understand the rules of pro matches. Glory wasn't football or basketball. It was very, very rare that someone would manage to violate the rules, never mind get a red card. He had yet to win a match too, so he wasn't all that strong. A helper of Yishu's who didn't know the rules very well and was average in strength. That was He-Ming's full understanding of Mofan, and in this week of preparations, Mofan wasn't their main focus. If he had to be categorized into important and unimportant, then he'd be thrown to the unimportant side. Now, this unimportant guy was coming on stage. He-Ming readied himself with his spirits high. From a basic overview, he could tell that Mofan was a very patient player, who often relied on ambushes. Yes, that's happy for you. He-Ming couldn't help but think. The match soon began. The map was still Wichuan Path. There was no point in comparing his speed to a ninja's, it would definitely be Deception who got there first. This time, He-Ming decided not to bother rushing. His Rullo walked over slowly. Wasn't his opponent a very patient player? Then let him wait some more. He-Ming was very relaxed. But soon enough, when he still had some distance to go from the winery in the center of Wichuan Path, He-Ming saw Deception. What on earth? He-Ming was surprised for a moment. Shouldn't this person have stashed himself in a corner of the winery to observe in silence and wait for a chance to ambush? That's what he had always done before, so how come he's changed his strategy today? So what if he did? He-Ming didn't look too much into it. Mofan truly wasn't a name that could make him feel pressured. Deception charged and Rullo met him. Electric Ring. He-Ming first had Rullo put this skill on himself. Ninjas were very likely to close in with a skill like Shadow Clone. The presence of this skill was often worrying. Afterwards, Rullo fired off a fireball. Starting with low-level skills was practically a universal traditional starting strategy. Deception quickly changed directions, dodging the fireball, and his hands then began rapidly moving in front of his chest, forming hand seals. He-Ming was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but think of the last match. A ninja's hand seals were a very exposed way of activating skills because every ninja skill was triggered through a different set of hand seals. One could figure out the skill through looking at the hand seals. However, since the speed of the hand seals was directly related to mechanical skill and hand speed, if a player was fast enough, then the hand seals would be nothing more than a blur. It'd be impossible to tell if they had bent one finger or two, and therefore impossible to accurately determine the skill. They could only guess from there. With a pro player's hand speed, they could all reach that standard. Mofan's mechanics were pretty good too. His hands blurred, leaving a few after images, then the seals were completed. Instantly, over 10 copies of Deception appeared. Ninjutsu, Shadow Dance. His first move was a level 70 skill. If this were the all-star level player Li Hua, He-Ming would feel surprised, but this player was just a rookie who not only failed to earn a single victory in the past 8 rounds, he also didn't even know the rules clearly. To He-Ming, there was only one way to describe this: childish. A bunch of shadow clones charged at Rullo. He-Ming didn't give ground, and elemental power immediately gathered in Rullo's mind with an absolute focus, before instantly casting the level 70 high-level skill, Heavenly Lightning Earth and Fire. The bunch of deceptions were immediately enveloped in an array of lightning and fire. He Ming let go and went wild, directly having Rollo use a high-level skill to neutralize Deception's high-level skill. The shadow clones were destroyed one by one under heavenly lightning, earth and fire, disappearing into smoke. 5, 4, 3. He Ming silently counted. Shadow dance wasn't like shadow steps with real and fake forms. It could be said that they were all real forms. When the skill ended, or when the shadow clones were killed one by one, the last one left would be the ninja's real body. 1. He Ming locked onto the last deception and stopped controlling the heavenly lightning, earth and fire. He was preparing to follow up with some new skills, throwing forth a new wave of attacks. Who would have expected that before Rollo even finished casting, the last deception would be killed just like that too? How? He Ming was really shocked this time. If this one was killed too, then that meant there were still clones present. Where were they? Why didn't he see them? Rollo whirled around, turning his head. After looking at his surroundings, he didn't see anything. He Ming then realized something, but too late. Underground tunneling technique. Deception shot right out of the ground, his ninja 2 striking Rollo's chin, yet very unrealistically it did not cut his face off but threw him into the air. Ninjutsu, bird fall. Deception curled up in mid-air, darting higher. When he stretched out his legs again, he directly kicked off of Rollo's shoulders. After using the jump, he then executed a neck bind. The rope attached to the hilt of the Ninja 2 had already wrapped itself around Rollo's neck. Deception landed lightly, his arms crossed in front of his chest, binding Rollo behind him and dragging him to the ground. He Ming, who hadn't thought much of Deception, panicked. These 3 skills, like a falcon swooping on a rising hare, didn't leave any openings whatsoever. In the previous second he was being ambushed, and in the next, he had been bound and thrown to the ground. His character hadn't been killed yet, but the abruptness of the ninja's assassin-like skills made He Ming's heart leap into his throat. After falling to the ground, he turned his head and saw Deception rapidly forming hand seals. He didn't have the time to look closely, hurriedly having Rollo roll sideways to a stand. Several streams of water shot out, 100 streams just missing He Ming. He Ming was just starting to feel relieved when Deception struck with a flame cut, Ninja 2 ablaze. Jump back, back, back. A skill like teleportation required too many inputs, so He Ming could only jump backwards. The flame cut swept down, almost striking. Rollo jumped thrice before finally stopping. How excessive, Ye Zhu exclaimed from the sidelines. To dodge that skill, 1 jump was enough. He Ming had panicked and made unnecessary actions. The extra 2 jumps didn't do anything to get to him to a safer distance. On the contrary, because of the excessive nature of these actions, he was unable to dodge the next attack. WatchOurWorldAudio.com. By the time the extra 2 jumps were over, Deception's Storm Shuriken had already arrived in front of him. No matter how fast he jumped, he couldn't beat the speed of a skill. It was too late for He Ming to take back those 2 jumps. Rollo was sent flying by the Storm Shuriken. Deception charged forwards in pursuit, and threw another shuriken before using Shadow Clone technique, sending his real body right next to Rollo. Then came a cicada shell double slash. The force of the 2 karate chops successively struck Rollo. Rollo hadn't even flown the full distance he was meant to when he got struck down by Deception halfway. What is going on? He Ming was rather confused. Against Fang Rui, he had met a style Fang Rui had never used. Against Mo Fan, he also met a fury that had never been displayed by this player in the past 8 rounds. Wasn't this person meant to be a player who played dirty, hiding in the shadows, waiting for a chance to strike? How come he had become so fierce when it came to him? Rollo was once again knocked flat on his back. He hurriedly rolled to a stand, but Deception's attack came once again. Teleport. He-Ming didn't think too much, getting his character to pull away first. However, teleportation didn't actually take the user very far. Just as Rollo landed, he turned to look and saw Deception's hand seals forming constantly, taking one step out and somehow managing to immediately close their distance. Ninjutsu, ground shrinking technique. Ninjutsu, Moon the Slaying Sakura. With one step forward, before even entering attack range, Deception activated the level 75 high-level skill Moon Slaying Sakura. Deception's ninjutsu transformed into broken cherry blossoms, swirling forth. He-Ming didn't know what to do. Run? Not possible. Dodge? He had just used his dodge skill. Ice Wall. Seeing that the other still had some distance to go, He-Ming hurriedly summoned a wall of ice in front of himself. Deception had already arrived by then, and the thin petals embedded themselves into the wall. Instantly, a crack could be heard, and a hole was made in the ice wall. Though it was just a hole, the ice wall counted as having been broken through by the system. Deception didn't avoid it, directly charging forward and shattering the rest of the ice wall. His ninjutsu had stabbed Rollo already, and broken cherry blossoms flew by, slashing open flowers of blood. In that moment, it seemed that Rollo was being torn apart. What on earth was this? He-Ming really, truly, didn't understand. How come, when it came to him, none of the opponents were like what he researched? Against Fang Rui, he was in the lead, he had the advantage. Then since Fang Rui didn't use all those new tricks at first, He-Ming won. This time, Mo Fan was different from the very start. Fiercely attacking, relentlessly attacking, not giving a single chance for retaliation. He-Ming was an elementalist. What elementalists were most afraid of was someone closing in and not giving them any chance to pull away. This time, he couldn't shake the other off at all. What suspense was there left? Mo Fan finally gained a win. A complete and straightforward win. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1208. The Issue of Communication. Audio source, WurshaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1208. The Issue of Communication. Translator, Nomiyami. Editor, Nomiyami. Hey, this kid's really playing this match with spirit. Quote. In Happy's player area, everyone was overjoyed. Mo Fan was still that silent, still that uncommunicative. See, even though they chose him to go on stage, no one knew how he planned to fight. But this match, he won beautifully. Seeing He-Ming's cold face as he came off stage on Miracle's side, it was clear how depressing that match had been for him. Not bad at all. Happy's players showered him with praise, but sadly this was the group arena, so for now the victorious Mo Fan had no way of receiving everyone's congratulations. As for how the next battle would play out, no one knew. Looking at Miracle's player area, they saw their second player standing up. Jia Xing, Battle Mage, character Prideful Mage. What a villain-like name. As soon as you hear it you know he's going to lose. Quote. As Fang Rui expressed this, Jia Xing walked on stage. The map was still Wichuan Path, and if nothing out of the ordinary happened, the two characters would still meet at the winery at the center of the map. Because, as of right now, neither of them had taken a roundabout route or slowed those, they both rushed right toward the center. However, as he approached the winery, Jia Xing still hesitated for a moment. He had seen that in Mo Fan's fight with He-Ming last round, he had fought a bit differently from his previous appearances. But would he regain his normal style in this battle? After a moment of thinking, Jiazing still controlled Prideful Mage to enter the winery more cautiously. He constantly turned his camera from left to right, treating every corner of shadows as a place where the enemy could be waiting to ambush him. Where was the opponent? The crowd knew better than Jiazing did. Mo Fan didn't control deception to hide in one corner. After he arrived at the winery, he first took a circle around outside, and after failing to discover the opponent's character, only then did he enter the winery. He was still moving around, evidently looking for the opponent. He took an extremely active attitude. Clearly, for this battle, he was using the same new playstyle he had used in the previous battle, preparing to find the opponent and face them head-on. But because this map had this winery at its center, with twisting paths, the two didn't meet so easily. "This kid, what's up with him today?" Fang Rui asked, slightly confused. Ye Zhu shook his head. He wasn't clear either. Last round, Mo Fan changed his normal playstyle. It was unexpected, but looking at the battle situation as a whole, the change he made was very reasonable, because last round his opponent was an elementalist. Using this sort of active, aggressive, close-up style to attack fit the typical logic. But in this round, the opponent was a battle mage, a class that was very good at direct confrontation, yet Mo Fan still used the same method he had last round. This led people to feel that his adjustment last round wasn't a decision made after seeing the class of his opponent, was it? The two characters were playing hide-and-seek in the winery, and the crowd, with their omniscient view, were the most anxious. Especially one time when they were one wall apart, but one went left and the other went right, passing each other by so closely, provoking all sorts of sighs from the audience. Finally, the two characters met in the lane formed by the gap between two courtyard walls. Mo Fan was calm, but Jiazing jumped. He thought that the opponent had been hiding somewhere, only for him to just boldly appear before him like this. What was going on? Jiazing already had a general guess. "Since we've met like this, let's just fight." The lane wasn't very wide. The two characters met, were stunned for a second, and suddenly charged forward. Whoosh! The ninja had some long-range skills. As Deception rushed forward, he had already thrown out a shuriken. Prideful Mage twisted his body to dodge. His movement didn't slow, and his spear was already lifted. Dragon breaks the ranks. Happy's Tangro often used this as a powerful opening move. And Jiazing felt that it was a suitable move for this current terrain, and so he directly used this powerful skill as he sprinted forward. Surrounded by a rippling magic aura, Prideful Mage rushed forward with his spear. The sound of his footsteps against the limestone-paved path rang in the air. In the narrow channel, the magic flow from the dragon breaks the ranks filled the space, and it looked like there was no place for Deception to hide. But Mo Fan turned his camera, and Deception instantly ran toward one of the walls at the side. Jump up, stab Ninja 2 into the wall, use that to jump up again, and Deception was already flying in the air. The dragon breaks the ranks past below him, and the aura was enough to send his clothes flapping, but it didn't affect his body. Here, he was outside of the attack range of dragon breaks the ranks. As Deception twisted in the air, his two hands were flying to form seals. Ninjutsu, Shadow Dance. Mo Fan didn't hold back, directly using a powerful attack against the opponent. Dozens of Deception's shadow clones chased the silhouette of Prideful Mage behind the dragon breaks the ranks. But Prideful Mage suddenly jumped up, turning in mid-air. Seeing Deception dodge the dragon breaks the ranks so nimbly, Jiazing immediately stopped the attack. He anticipated that the opponent would immediately try and attack him, so he borrowed his lingering momentum and jumped up, twisted. Magic fluctuated around his spear, and he swung it down, shattering heaven and earth. Powerful attack. Another powerful attack. Jia Xing also retaliated with a powerful attack. The shadow clones of the shadow dance hadn't had the chance to all attack Prideful Mage when this powerful attack enveloped all of them. Shadow clones. How much life could they have? They definitely couldn't resist this bold level 75 battle mage attack, which produced waves of magic enough to stir a mountain. In an instant, these clones were dissipated into light, leaving not a single one. Not a single one. This situation was very similar to when He Ming earlier used heavenly lightning, earth and fire to blast away all of the shadow clones. Not a single one remembering meant that deception had already hidden somewhere that was out of sight. Underground. Prideful Mage's spear already thrusted downward, but no, he wasn't there. Everyone saw deception was coming at him from behind, using skills like shadow clone technique to instantly send himself to this position. The ambush of a ninja was of course silent and stealthy. As soon as Prideful Mage's spear hit nothing, Jia Xing knew that something was wrong, but it was already too late to react. Deception had gotten behind him. Annihilation. The ninja's knock-up skill sent Prideful Mage into the air. And then, ninjutsu, flickering charge. The rapidly moving silhouette seemed to flash in the air, chasing Prideful Mage with attack after attack. As flickering charge was executed, Prideful Mage's body was still floating in the air. He hadn't had the time to fall back down, but he suddenly waved the hand that wasn't holding his spear. A purple shadow flew forth. This battle mage had the witch's low-level skill Night Cloak. Night Cloak's grab effect was extremely good, but Mo Fan's reaction was fast. Deception swiftly jumped backward, and this Night Cloak hit air. But immediately afterward, a burst of something that looked like stardust scattered in front of them, and Deception was unable to dodge it cleanly. Disperse Powder, another witch skill. Using these two instant witch skills, Jia Xing won back the initiative. The speed-lowering effect of Disperse Powder had a significant impact on the ninja, who relied on agility. Jia Xing easily controlled to dodge Deception's follow-up attack, and then he began his counter-attack. Just in this narrow alleyway, the battle mage and the ninja began a fierce confrontation. The two competed in observation, reaction, hand speed. Neither of them thought to use some opening to retreat and adjust before coming back. It was as though the entire map were limited to just this little area and leaving would be dying. The two traded blows, both refusing to back down. But the ninja class, in terms of style, wasn't entirely suited for this sort of hard, direct battle. Compared to the opponent, he was at a disadvantage. But the battle was still that intense. The disadvantage was only evident in the speed at which the health of the two characters decreased. But no one dared to confidently say right now who would win and who would lose. In this sort of confrontation, one slip-up could be seized by the opponent to reach a new high. An advantage right now could be completely turned around by such a high. This was Miracle's home game, and so there were more supporters of Miracle and Jia Xing. WuxRWorldAudio.com. Right now Prideful Mage had the slight upper hand, but no one dared to relax. They worried, their hearts raced, every clash made them jump. At a time like this, wouldn't it be better for him to adjust his rhythm a bit? Quote, at Happy's player area, the players were discussing the situation at hand. From the way he's acting, it looks like he's prepared to fight like this until the end, Yizhu said. This battle mage seems quite tough. Mo Fan really should have used his normal playstyle to wear him down, Fang Rui said. Yeah, Yizhu agreed, but the problem was, no one knew what Mo Fan was thinking. Worse, even after he came off stage they still might not get an answer. Lack of communication was always Mo Fan's biggest problem. At last, this battle ended with Jia Xing's victory. Prideful Mage still had just under a third of his health left. Not a bad situation. Over at Happy, they were sighing. For this battle, Mo Fan's health had lagged behind at the start, but if he had used his normal style for this battle instead of the direct confrontation, he might have had a greater chance. Watching Mo Fan walk back step by step, Happy's members maintained their silence all the way until he returned to the player room. Not bad, Ye Zhu put simply. Mo Fan looked at him, didn't say anything and headed back toward his own seat. Ye Zhu gave Sumo Chung a meaningful look. At Happy, the only one who could have any bit of communication with Mo Fan was Sumo Chung. Sumo Chung smiled. She twisted her head to look back at where Mo Fan heading back to his seat and called. "It's a bit sad that you lost. How come you played in such a rush?" Mo Fan stopped and looked back, but his gaze landed not upon Sumo Chung, but upon Fang Rui. In a hurry, Mo Fan said. Everyone was stunned. "You useless dim sum. Are you looking for death? Hurry up and kneel." Yishu hit Fang Rui on the head. My mistake, my mistake. Fang Rui was weeping and crying. The others didn't know whether to be angry or amused. This communication issue was really a big problem. End chapter.